All right, so we're back with another episode, clip of PuckPod by BD Sports. We just finished what was, it seems like forever, the longest trade deadline, but the most boring trade deadline day ever. We're gonna go over the Pacific Division this clip, I guess. But if you're watching the full episode, I guess it'll be all compiled together. So, boys, I know that this is an odd question, but how was your half week? Because technically, we recorded an episode earlier this week.
I straight up don't remember any actual real world activities I did. I went to school, I went to work, I did stuff, I ate exactly. Brian's just scrolling on his phone. That's literally all I did, man. Like, oh my god, I was literally just either on Cap Friendly, refreshing on my phone, different tabs open. My mind was like completely occupied by hockey outside of like actual real life responsibilities. So the week flew by.
What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we had a pretty good week for the site. Quite a few articles were being written. Um, really nothing today because there wasn't really anything to write about. Most of them got done at the beginning of this week, like Tuesday, Wednesday. I think we recorded a clip the other day, did we not?
Feels like we
Or
recorded a clip like every other day.
oh my god,
Yeah.
Monday.
was it Monday? Oh my god, that felt
I
like two
know.
weeks ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
so between those clips, between the articles that we've been writing, everything's been getting a little bit of traction. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but 100% today was just like a slog, and it was expected. I think everybody got their business done early, was to be expected, and I commend. I watched TSN's broadcast today. I commend everybody on that
Feel bad for them
they
almost.
were on there for 10, I think it was 10 or 12 hours, some of them.
Freaking
um
filibustering, man.
oh
That takes
man,
skill, man.
yeah, big shout out to Bruce Boudreau, who had like a big spotlight today with TSN, and good for them for getting Bruce, there it is, on there, because you know what, he was a
Big
pretty
get.
welcome addition there. Yeah, seems like a really good guy. So on that note, I guess we could just jump right into so we'll start off with the Pacific. I'll be honest with you, some of the moves on here are like they're just horrible. Like they're awful trades. Nothing really jumps out at me here. I'm not gonna lie to
We're
you
saving the
guys.
best for last. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. That one stick with us for the. Are you talking about the Metro? Or are you talking about the Atlantic? I think those could flip flop, honestly.
I think the Metro edges out just a little bit because but
Yeah,
you know what? Can't complain with like both divisions got like jacked up. Like both divisions literally
yeah.
got
The
steroided,
East, the East got completely jacked, and it seemed like the Pacific just got like all
rated.
that super soldier serum just
Yeah.
taken right out of them. Yeah, they got absolutely rated. So I guess we'll start with
Let's start with
who.
Edmonton because we're getting Edmonton
Yeah,
weather here in Toronto. So I like
yeah.
that.
Oh my god.
You
So
didn't even
so
mention that. It's
Yeah.
it is.
Snowmageddon here.
Yeah, it is snowmageddon here. It's like 30 centimeters outside. That's honestly a big reason why we're all on here at this late hour, because there's honestly
We know
like
tomorrow's
not much
chalked.
else to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, basically. Um.
All right, so
So
with the Oilers, the first question I'm just gonna ask you guys quickly. We'll get into the trades after. Did they do enough? Yes or no?
that's a tough one, because I think their defense was flawed coming into the season, and their biggest acquisition was a pretty good top four defenseman in Matthias Ekholm. I've always liked Ekholm. I don't think he's the needle pusher for this team to, he's the difference between them at winning a cup or not, but he definitely adds a bit more of a defensive presence to that back line. Did they also get him retained as well, or no, because Barry went out
It's
the
like
other way?
it's like
It's
4%.
Oh,
4%.
it's 4%.
Yeah.
That's
To get
right.
him at
I
sixth
remember
spot.
that. So they got Ekholm and Christian's favorite Nick Bukestad
Yeah. For
from
sure.
Arizona. There, he's been having a resurgent season, man. After you brought him up after Christian, I think he also went on a little bit of a tear. Was he at like 30 points on the year?
Something like that.
Yeah, good for him. Um, so in did they do enough for you, Christian? Do you think, in your mind? This is let's not
Honestly,
forget reigning Western Conference finalists here,
yeah,
and they're
yeah.
probably having a better season than they were last year.
I was going to say full season of Evander Kane, but honestly not because of the two injuries. So that's a cancellation there. But did they do enough? Honestly, in my mind, I don't think so. And it's less because of the additions and more because they came at the cost of subtracting guys, right? Like they didn't just outright add Ekholm and Bukestad. They added them by subtracting from the team, specifically Tyson Berry. Like that guy was like he embodies the Oilers play style. Leafs just played Edmonton. They schooled us through and through. That was kind of like a Tyson Berry game. They like he fit into their play style. He was having a good season. He was their number one guy on the power play. That's a significant thing to take off of your roster. And I'm not by any means saying that Barry is better than Ekholm, but I do question how much the upgrade from Ekholm to Barry is in the context of what they paid. Outside of giving up Barry, you're giving up the first. You're giving up a guy who played on the Canadian World Junior team, Reed Schaefer. Didn't play a ton, but like he was on that roster. That's not nothing. And then you give up Puljujarvi basically as a cap dump. I think they got a third back for him in exchange, and he went to Carolina.
Yeah,
So
it was a
listen, that's a
third,
guy who.
and I believe his name is something Puistola, but
Oh,
he got signed right down to
Puistila came to Edmonton. Yeah, that was
yeah,
the.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
He got signed right down
So
though. So
yeah, he's like a prospect. I don't really think there's too many expectations on him there. And listen, I like Bukestad. I do like Bukestad. That's a guy that I was pushing for. They paid a third for him, and maybe he does give you more than what Puljujarvi was given, right? Because Puljujarvi they had basically shunned him. He wasn't getting much ice time. Not too much trust with coaches. Bukestad is probably going to get that trust. Are they a better team? Yes. Have they changed themselves completely? No, they're still the Edmonton Oilers. And really, this team comes down to goaltending, right? It's a theme with a lot of teams. If Stuart Skinner can stand on his head, or if Jack Campbell can be the old Jack Campbell of old, um, then it's a different story.
I'll be honest with you guys. I think that they did do enough. I like the moves a lot. Reason being, they're the only team in the league guaranteed scoring. Like legitimately, they're the only team in the league that you can guarantee that they're going to score about 2 goals a night. Obviously, there's going to be nights where they don't, but with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, odds of you scoring are pretty high. Let's be honest here. What does that mean? You said, they lost Tyson Berry. He was a good player, fits their play style. But for me, they needed something that wasn't their play style. They needed that defensive rock to hold them back, and Matthias Ekholm gives them exactly what they need. Not only is he experienced defensively, but he's a minute eater, and also he has experience in the playoffs, especially making it to that cup final that one time. I mean, fair play to Edmonton. They did get better, but Bukestad also, right? Defensive center, perfect, perfect for the shutdown line. And obviously, the Puljujarvi loss kind of sucks. I mean, you did draft him, what, fourth or third overall, something like that. But if it wasn't going to work, it wasn't going to work. Mind you, Edmonton does have a history of pissing away top tier prospects. But at the end of the day, they have the best two prospects drafted in the past, like, what, 10 years. So it doesn't phase me.
maybe until this year.
Before
Yeah.
before we switch teams, I'm gonna hit you with one thing here. So what is one part of the roster that we always emphasize come playoff time? The bottom six. Okay.
Yep.
Here is a healthy bottom six on the Oilers. So you got to throw in Evander Kane into the top six. So you're talking Yamamoto, Fogle, Ryan McLeod, Matthias Janmark, Klim Kostin, Nick Bukestad, Derek Ryan, Devin Shore. Like those are your guys competing for the bottom six. Is that a good enough bottom six?
Here's the thing with that, Christian. That type of bottom six
That's what you
has
want.
been in Edmonton for the past like 4 seasons. Like
That's
that
kind of the point, though, right? Like they
a
haven't
lack
been
of
able to do it with that type of bottom
yes,
six.
exactly. And that's another thing that they should have addressed in the like I don't know if maybe they could have addressed it now at the trade deadline. I definitely think getting somebody like Ekholm was probably more suited for them, especially because they were in the defense market. For the longest time, everybody thought that Erik Karlsson was going to be on his way
Dude,
to
even Tyson
Edmonton.
Berry thought so. Like he talked about that today. He was like,
Yeah.
I knew about the Carlson stuff. He thought so.
So here's the thing with that: like, you're not getting Eric Carlson to be a defensive stalwart. Ekholm might be closer to that than Eric Carlson is. Um, but it was always obvious that scoring wasn't going to be the problem just because they have Leon and Connor. Unfortunately to those two. Oh, sorry, fortunately or unfortunately to those two. Um, so I think they addressed their problems internally to a way like they addressed the needs that they felt needed to be addressed at home. But 100% that like next year they have to address some of that bottom six scoring because you
I
can't run Matthias Janmark another season out
I
there, Devon Shore another
I
season.
don't think that it's as bad as you guys make it out to be. Mainly because you could just put Nuge 3C and Bukes 4C and it fixes everything. Obviously, like it's not ideal, right? But like believe me,
Right now,
Warren Fogel's a pest, right?
so honestly, I know that if Warren Fogle is the Kerfoot of Edmonton, and I don't mean that as a slight to Kerfoot, but I mean I guess I do. The Kerfoot's reputation is that he makes too much. That's what I mean. That's the Fogle reputation in Edmonton. Tyler Yamamoto is the second right wing right now. That's going to change with Evander Kane, but he has 14 points in 38 games.
Yeah, I was
Like
gonna say,
that's
isn't he only had like 5 goals this year?
yeah, six goals coming
Six
into
goals.
tonight. I do think he potted too tonight, but tonight is today, and tomorrow his stats will count.
But
Listen, I do find a little suspect, and this is the caveat. They have the best top six in the league, bar none. Just playing some devil's advocate. Still, they're a better team. They're a better team today than they were yesterday. I just don't know if it's enough.
another thing too, like you said, you're bringing up regular season numbers. Like who cares? You know, like no, seriously,
I don't.
there's
No, it's
no
true. It's true.
legitimately no impact on the season. Right? Like I always go back to this when someone's out of form going into playoffs. Braden Holtby wasn't our starter, 2018. Philip Grubauer
Yeah,
started the playoffs, right? It doesn't matter as long as you catch heat in the playoffs. That's when it matters, right? And who knows, right? When you're playing with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, like the odds of you scoring are pretty high. Obviously, they're different lines, but when just being out there, it's different, right? You're gonna play for them, so I don't know. I like the moves. I like what Edmonton did, but I don't know. Do you guys want to move to another Pacific team? Another Canadian
I guess
Pacific team?
so.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, let's go to our good old friends out west. If that's the suggestion that you're making there, Bry, didn't think we would have to talk. This might legitimately be the last time we talk about them, but why? Why in God's green earth are the Vancouver Canucks buying at the deadline?
Okay.
Listen,
buying and selling. They did both.
yeah, they did both. They did do both, which is very weird.
So, who was that? One of the management. I don't remember who it was exactly. They came out in the beginning of the season. Oh, this is we're not rebuilding. We're just gonna retool. And I think
Oh,
that's
Jim Rutherford.
was it Jim Rutherford?
Yeah, that was JR. Not even at the beginning of the season. That was into the season when all the hoopla was going on with Horvat and everything. Because they came into the season with the playoff expectations. They were convinced, like, yeah, we're back in the playoff picture. And it wasn't until midseason that he conceded, might be in for a retool here, boys. Not a rebuild, but maybe a retool.
Oh, you know what? Typical Vancouver and typical retooling, right? Doesn't seem like forever they've been doing this in and out, never fully committing to X or Y, just staying in the middle of the both. Um, I don't know. I like Ronick as a player. I really do. Did they overpay? It's fair price in my opinion, but I don't know. This idea of not committing really, get what does it tell the fan base? It just says we don't know what we're doing, and then now the fans gonna look at this and now they're gonna think, well, what are we doing showing up to games?
Yeah.
And
So yeah, no, keep going, Brad.
it's just odd, You would think that they would know it's time to just try something different after what they've said before. Anybody who's not nailed to the wall or not named Elias Pettersson can go. They've said that multiple times, and it doesn't look like that's what's happening. It looks like they're bringing stuff in instead. You know, you know what?
And they had the chance to not be nailed down by a player today because all reports were saying. I don't know if he refuted this after, but all reports were saying that JT Miller was pretty close to being on his way to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think we had a little bit of a debate in our personal group chat of like why Pittsburgh would even consider doing it. And I was like, okay, I mean, it kind of makes sense from a Pens perspective. I still wouldn't do it if I was them. But if you're the Canucks, and JT Miller seems to have been the rod of negativity all season, for better or for worse. It doesn't matter if he's a point per game player, but he seemed to have been, the cause for he seemed to be the scapegoat for most of the problems on the Canucks season. Why wouldn't you just not let him go, but you could unstrap yourself from what could be a potentially like awful anchor of a contract in before it even begins, basically, right?
And letting it go isn't even like the term because like they were getting stuff back for him, right? This was not a there wouldn't have been a cap dump. It was literally Pittsburgh saying we're going to give you a bunch of draft picks, and Vancouver said, actually, we don't want a bunch of draft picks. We want a young center. Like, are you serious right now? The whole point is we're saying like if JT Miller could have been a free move, you even consider that. Obviously, that's not reality. You need something back for him, and Pittsburgh was going to give that to you. It is so confusing. Despite all that, I'm with Brian. I like Rodick as a player. The first and the second in a vacuum, decent little trade there. He only makes like 4.4 mil this year and next year, and he's RFA. Like he's under control. They're going to sign him to a deal next year, and you get him for a long time. Everyone's making the comparison to the Chikrin trade. All signs do point to like Chikrin wanting to stay in Ottawa, so that's a different scenario. But like Rodick has as much control as Chikrin, and Rodick isn't Chikrin as a player, but I think the prices are in line when you compare it that way. I don't think it was necessarily an overpay for Vancouver. You combine that with some shrewd moves like the Kravtsov move. That one's not decent. That one's decent because you basically just traded a seventh and AHL player. Immediate upgrade there. Um, and then you have the Shen trade. That's just your typical deadline move. That's what we expected more from Vancouver. Same thing with the Lazard deal. They are so wishy washy, right? Honestly, their deadline date is marked by what they didn't do. Even if it wasn't Miller, it's guys like Besser, guys like Garland. These guys are cap strapped still. The whole part of being able to retool is having the cap space to do so. They still don't have that. And based off of that metric alone, it's kind of a failure of a deadline for Vancouver.
So in regards to Vancouver as a whole, but do you guys think that they did enough? Like, would you guys not did enough, but do you guys say that this is a successful trade deadline for them? Yes or no?
Not
Yeah,
getting
no.
rid of any one of their boat anchor contracts. Okay, like the chances of moving Tyler Myers, OEL, somebody of that nature at this deadline, highly unlikely. And I understand that. But they had the opportunity to pull the parachute out from JT Miller's contract. As good as he is as a player, he's one season removed from almost hitting 100 points. I believe he had 99 last year, right? I think what he brings on in added baggage is probably just too much for a young core that maybe if he, and I had this thought before, maybe if he goes to Pittsburgh where he becomes maybe the fifth guy in the leadership race, maybe he gets tempered a little bit and he's just allowed to play hockey, which it doesn't seem like he's allowed to do in Vancouver. It's he has to play hockey and also deal with the internal politics, which I don't think he can handle personally.
Is Miller even PPG'd this season? Like point per game? Do you guys know off the top of your
Mm,
head?
I think he
He's got
might be
54 points in 60 games. I'm looking at it right
okay,
now.
just under. Okay, that's fine for a struggling
Yeah.
team, I guess. But man, like you had the opportunity there, Jim. Like, and it's to your old team. Like they were literally giving you a handout. They were giving you a handout, and you slapped it away, and you said, "I want more."
One,
How
not
greedy can you be?
not I want more. get me something
or I
different.
want get me
That's
some. Well,
yeah. That's the
in a
difference.
way, it was something more because he wanted the proven
He just
thing.
wanted us. Yeah, he wanted players to
He didn't want
retool.
the bag of he didn't want the bag of magic beans because I don't know if he knows how to like what to do with it. I'll be honest with you. Um,
I mean, yeah,
that's a
but
head scratch, 100%.
I one thing before we switch off Vancouver, I just wanted to say I feel so bad for Besser. I feel so bad for Garland,
Yeah,
specifically Besser, man. Like this guy's been like waiting to get moved, and it's gonna be another 3-4 months before he can. I feel awful for the guy, but I guess business is business and hockey's hockey. But anyway, let's move on to the next team. Let's keep it in Canada. Let's go to the Flames. What do you guys think about the Flames moves?
It's the same conversation as Vancouver. The conversation is lack of moves, right? Lack of specific move with Vancouver, but moves of any kind in Calgary. Their biggest move was well, actually, no, it wasn't the AHL swap. It was their other move. Their only other move. It's bringing in Nick Ritchie in exchange for Brett Ritchie, along with Troy Stetcher. That's the biggest move. They gave up Connor Mackey as well. This is basically Calgary standing pat. This is them flip flopping Brad Treliving, not knowing to commit as a buyer or a seller. He kind of just said, "I'm gonna make a trade to make a trade, see what happens," and basically leaving it in the hands of their goaltending. This is another team that goes as their goaltending does. Once again, Leafs went into their barn last night. We saw what Jacob Markstrom looks like when he's on his game. It's pretty good. It was a 2-1 game last night. We've also seen what the Flames look like when their goaltending is not on its game, and it's things like a 4-3 overtime loss where you outshoot a team 57-20. That's not enough for a playoff team. Can't have those types of losses. So, listen, they made moves to make moves.
Anybody you
It's
wanted to see from Calgary get moved? Anybody specific that you wanted to shout out?
selfishly, Nolan Passionhaver, Tyler Toffoli would have been a great addition for the Leafs, but that's just me being a spoiled brat and wanting to move even after bringing in 6 new guys. So I'm not going to spend too much time saying, "God damn it, I wish we did that." But ooh, would have been all right. Would have been okay.
How about you, Dave? How do you feel about the Flames moves?
dude. I'm so like I'm in the middle because I expected them to drop off at the beginning of the year after they lost Kachuk and Gaudreau, and they supplemented that with Kadri, who's been all right, and Huberto, who's been less than all right. He's been okay, I guess, but already the fans are starting to turn on him. And listen, I don't want to say I told you so, but man, that guy is literally the definition of second assist merchant. That guy had such an inflated ego after hitting, what was it, 110 points. He had like 110 points last year, and 70 of them were secondary assists. Like it was unbelievable how much everybody's like, oh, what a W trade by Brad Treliving. I was like, okay, let's pump the brakes here. You're also sending out a potent like Matt Kachuk was their next captain. Like not that they were forced to, like unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
So I'm so like I'm in the middle. I thought that they should have just sold it this year, but I also understand why Brad didn't. Like I still think he has faith, and I think maybe
I know what you mean. It's like you still have a little bit of faith in what you have. They have a lot of good pieces there, but there is just no magic like this time around.
it's just yeah. There was so much magic last year, and I think that's what made this Flames team so different. Like
It's
that
essentially a
Sutter
new team,
magic
though,
has
right?
rubbed off. Yeah, that Sutter magic's rubbed off. The Gaudreau, Lindholm, Kachuk magic has rubbed off. Two of them are not on the team anymore. Oof,
But
man.
Dave, what I will say about Calgary, it's like you go to a restaurant that you hear is really, really good, right? And you go for the first time. You order something you might not like, but it still has a good reputation. You might want to go back. I think that that's what the Flames are doing. They're kind of just thinking, okay, we might as well just stay pat with what we have. Just let's not change too much, and let's try it again next year because you gotta give it to the players. They're switching to a new team, switching to a new scenario, new situation.
Here's
Let's give it some
here's
time.
the thing. if Jake Markstrom posts a 9-10 this year, they're in a playoff spot. That's quite literally,
That's true.
or 9-10. I'm literally gonna say 9-10. Like that's bare minimum. If he posts a 9-10 this year, they're probably in a playoff spot, and they probably add actually like at this like they know that they're gonna add. So maybe in the long run, it's probably better that
Just
they
to stay
didn't
pat.
sell the farm and they just stayed pat. And maybe next year the whole team has a bounce back. Maybe I'll leave my words next year, and Jonathan Huberdeau becomes, gets 145 points like Connor McDavid's having this year. Who knows, right? I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but it was just it's a weird time right now in Calgary. I think that's what I'll say.
Okay.
We're talking about next year with the Flames. I just have a question for you guys here. We're already looking at next year as okay, you run it back. Do they run it back though? Is Brad Treliving and Daryl Sutter both here next year? Is one of them here? Is neither of them here?
I
Honestly, I think there's a
think
scenario where if they miss, that Sutter is either let go or apparently Brad doesn't have a contract after this year. If you're Brad, because you got to remember, Sutter wasn't a Brad hire. That was the hire by the higher ups in the bubble season, basically overriding Tree Living. If you're Brad and you're up for a new deal, we know that there's friction between Sutter and Tree Living. Do you even sign a contract extension? Do you say I'll just go somewhere else?
It's potential, right? There's potentially like if there's already
It's
friction,
just something to think about. Yeah.
you just go. But to be honest with you,
The timeline does change next year because we talked about all the guys who could go at this deadline. It's all those guys who have that extra year. It's Toffoli, it's Backlund, it's Lindholm, Hannafin. Like that's a lot of your core there. So maybe I am being premature with this decision, but no, because Tree Living's contract's up. Like he has to decide if he wants to stay or not. I think he might be the one to go.
potentially. But then
um
again, you look at this team. It's like you like every single name.
I know.
It's a beautiful team. Like, let's be honest. Like you
Yeah.
salivate when you look at a roster like that. But at the end of the
What
day,
do
like
we what do we say when we have a roster like that though? Isn't the first thing you say is, well, you change the coach? Isn't that is I feel like
isn't that
that's
what we were saying
basically the
about
thing.
Vancouver all year? We love some of the players on that team.
yeah,
So
that's
then
Just
true.
maybe it's not the answer, right? That's another
It's such an
confusing team. I think the conclusion is it's the goaltending. I really think that is the make or break,
yeah,
like Dave said,
100%.
right? Yeah.
okay.
And another thing too, sorry, just the last thing. I think unfortunately or fortunately, if you're a Sutter fan or not, I think his time might be the first one to come to an end out of the two of them. I think Brad's going to have some discussion to renew. I think Sutter might be done. It seems like his effect and his love, like there's no love lost, it seems, between some of the new additions, in particular, Jonathan Huberdeau and his agent, especially Alan Walsh, went public recently saying, kind of calling out Sutter's tactics and stuff. So I think to appease the what's he on like 80? I think he's going to make like $80 million from that team, something along those lines. To appease that guy, they probably get somebody who John probably likes a lot more. Basically, I think that's personally my opinion. I think his time's almost done in Calgary. I liked, he had a good run. He's had a good run. He'll probably find another job pretty sooner rather than later if he wants to. If not, he'll just go on his farm and you know grind out the rest of his days. Basically,
Farm stuff.
So
yeah.
you guys mentioned Daryl Sutter. I want to talk about. I want to move on to the next team. Daryl Sutter previously coached for, famously winning. I think was it two that he won with LA. Yeah.
Yeah, one too. Yeah.
So yeah, speak about Daryl Sutter's old team, Los Angeles Kings. They actually shipped out their veteran.
Franchise goalie.
Yeah, you can argue franchise. Yeah, they shipped out their franchise goalie finally to grab. Who was it again? Was it Gavrikov? Yeah, it was Gavrikov and
Corpusalo.
someone else.
Corpusalo.
Corpusalo.
And Corpusalo. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, didn't rub the fans too well. Didn't rub the players too well from what we saw. How do you guys feel about moving quick?
Dude, that video of Kopitar like straight
Crying.
up flying at the presser. That's rough, man. That is rough.
It's not even the first time
Yeah,
we saw a captain cry at
I know,
his
right?
presser, like
What is it? Back-to-back days,
Larkin
less
as
than
pretty
well.
24
much.
hours between.
It
Yeah,
had to have
man.
been. Yeah.
You know what?
Wow. So,
You gotta feel for
yeah,
them, man.
Brian.
Like that LA core, like those guys have been through war, like battles together, and it's like you grow up with these guys. Like it's a brotherhood, and you just see it, right? I can see Quick getting a statue one day outside Staples Center or Crypto
Oh, and he
Center.
deserves it. He
Like
100%. If
So,
Dustin Brown's got one,
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
okay,
So, do you guys like really think though that Quick was caught like off guard by this move? Is it just me, or is this like year three of hearing Quick in trade rumors? Do you think this whole time he's basically been told, no, 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 those rumors are bullcrap? I find it hard to believe that like he didn't expect a trade. I don't know. I get it and 100% understand why fans are mad. I would be mad if I was an LA fan. Um, this is just a little subplot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was
I
rumors of
get
even
it.
like the Leafs being in on him a couple years ago. I remember that.
I get it, but
He was looking at me like he's gonna barf.
it's not the way that he probably saw it. You know, he probably knew. Okay, yes, it's my time's coming. My time is coming, but not like this. Not to Columbus, because he doesn't. Because at the
Yeah,
time he doesn't know he's getting flipped. And then another thing, right after such a special moment, Kopitar gets 4 goals. You know, the team's so happy, and then you walk into the room. Sorry, you get called out of the room. Hey, John, we need to speak to you. Oh yeah, you've been traded to Columbus. All right, go back into the room and have fun. Say bye to the
and
boys.
apparently he stayed with them on the flight home. Like he
Yeah,
took
he
that flight
traveled with
home
them
with them.
home.
That's tough, man. That
Wow.
is tough. Listen, like emotions aside, it's a deal that makes total sense for LA. Like we do have to talk about the hockey stuff here too. Like Gavrikov makes them pretty good. They got a decent little squad there. Honestly, I feel like I don't remember the last time we talked about LA on the podcast. I feel like the last time might have been like when the Leafs played them, and that was early December after we spanked them 5-0. I know that because I was at that game. Honestly, I don't think we've talked about them since then, and they've quietly been like a top 10 team. So is Rob Blake justified in the move he made? For sure. You can definitely quibble with the way he went about it. Um, yeah, Gavrikov's a good ad. Corpusalo, I think he's almost definitely got better numbers than Quick. Obviously,
He's
that's
an
why you make the
upgrade.
move.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's an
I think
upgrade.
I believe he's in the 900s on a very bad
Where his
Columbus team.
teammate Verslickens is like he might have the worst save percentage in the
Yeah,
whole
he's
NHL,
870
right?
something. I'll be honest. Like
Yeah,
if he's 870, that's probably saying like that's probably a good number for him this year. Like
I,
because he's had some real bad games.
I think the real winner is Gavrikov. He gets to play on a much better.
definitely.
He gets to play on a much better team. He already looked good in Columbus, given whatever offense, whatever teammates he had. But now he gets to play on a top 10 team in the league. I mean, it's a pretty good deal. All he has to do is fly to LA from Columbus. I think he's the real
I know,
winner.
right? You don't even have to mention that, like LA could be in Columbus's spot in the standings, and I think we're still calling it a win for Gavrikov,
On a
right?
personal level, yeah. But
Definitely.
Well, it's even for Corpusalo too. Let's not forget he's also coming from Columbus as well.
Yeah.
That's where he spent his entire his career so far too.
I also wanted to ask you guys this. Given the price of Gavrikov, given um, how he was moved, do you guys feel like LA got a better deal than what you guys paid for McCabe? Because that was another guy you guys were in on for a bit.
Totally different context when you look at the trades because we're getting McCabe for what 3 years after this one. That's a huge deal, and we're getting him at 2 million. Even if Gavrikov stays with LA long term on an extension, it is not at 2 mil. It's 4 million plus. Could be touching 5.
And is Gavrikov like I could like honest to goodness say hand on my heart that like not even trying to be a biased Leaf fan here, but I much rather have Jake McCabe at 4 million than Gavrikov even at 2 million. I like hand on my heart. I think he's a much better like and I know that like I didn't mess up those numbers either. Like I would
Yeah,
rather McCabe on his full salary than Gavrikov retained at 50. He's a good defenseman. Don't get me wrong, but it's $4 million. for Gavrikov. That's what he's on, right?
No, he's on like 2.7 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm saying if you project his contract, like that's
Oh,
that's probably what he's expecting, man. I honestly
dude,
think that's the
even
number.
2.7 is like pushing it. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's a good defenseman. Just slightly starting to creep into the slight overpayment department. I don't know. I've
I
never
always
been
bring up
high on Gavrikov.
I always bring up the Tampa Bay sniff test, and if Tampa Bay wants him, that's a good sign. It goes the other way too, and it also applies with Boston. We were hearing about Boston, Gavrikov. They're going to get Gavrikov. Gavrikov's sitting out because Boston's going to get him, but they have to make a subsequent move, and then they didn't. They changed their mind. If the Bruins change their mind on somebody, maybe that tells you something because they got a better option for
They
another
did.
Much,
episode. But yeah,
Yeah.
different
Okay.
much,
clip.
much
But yeah,
better option.
Okay.
yeah.
Let's keep it in California. Let's go to the Ducks. Let's talk about what the
Oh,
Ducks didn't get and didn't do because it just wasn't that great their trade deadline. Let's start with the big fish. Um, you know what? Let's go. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with Kulikov first. How do you guys feel about?
Kulikov? That's the big fish?
No, let's start with that one first, just because let's ease into it. Because I thought about it and I was
I
like,
thought you were just trying to
if
make a sick dig at Klingberg, man. I thought that was kind of
no,
cool,
no, no.
man.
I was like, if we start with Klingberg, like right now, like we're gonna have no energy for the rest. So let's start with Kulikov. Let's get that one out of the way, and then let's get into the more important stuff after. But
I mean, I don't know. Is there much on Kulikov? I think it's just like it's your classic trade deadline move. Actually, you know what? I take that back. They took on Brock McGinn at half retained. Actually, yeah. At no, they took on his full salary. They put him in the AHL, so that's why it's only 1.625 because I think he makes 3 mil flat. So that's not nothing to take from Pittsburgh, and it's like for 3 years. Um, that kind of smells like what Arizona's been doing, where it's just like we'll take your dead money so we can get to the cap floor next year. That's kind of what that smells like to me. And the third for Kulikov. Third is actually more than I thought you'd get for Kulikov because everyone on Anaheim has a terrible season, and just in the context of Klingberg, that's more than he fetched, right?
yes,
Yeah, 100%.
but
Dude, if you were trading for Dmitry Kulikov 5 years ago, I'd say, wow, what a trade deadline pickup. But it's 2023, man. Dmitry Kulikov is just not it for the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially. Like, I know that they're just trying to save face to try to push on another cup run, and I guess at 50%, you could maybe do worse. But man, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with Dmitry Kulikov, in my honest opinion here.
I mean it's a good thing when Pittsburgh's down in the dirt. I mean, let's be honest here. Who doesn't? But you know what? Let's go into the one everybody wants to talk about now. John Klingberg goes to the Wild for what, like a fourth, a prospect and something. I'm not even too
Fourth
sure. Yeah.
prospect, Andre Suster for like the fourth time to Anaheim, I swear. Um,
I forgot he was still
what
like
a
around. I thought he retired.
I know, right? I know. Um, Klingberg was retained at 50%. So yeah, Minnesota's getting him at 3.5 mil. Yeah, what a botched move by Anaheim here, going back to the summer when they signed him on a 7 million by a 1 year deal, and we all thought, wow, that's free money. You're gonna get Klingberg and you're gonna flip him at the deadline. You're gonna get like, I don't know, maybe a first for him. That's gonna be great. Yeah, no, you didn't even get close to that because your team is god awful. I think it honestly might be the most depressing team to watch in the whole NHL, starting with their head coach, who looks like he just wants to be anywhere else in the world than on an NHL bench. Yeah, it's really, really tough to say much positive about this trade with that context. One of the worst off seasons that I've seen, honestly. You signed Klingberg to that deal, got nothing for him. As a small market, 7 million isn't a drop in the bucket. That kind of means something to you. You signed Ryan Strome to like 5x5. He's been downright awful. And Vetrano, who's kind of actually been a little bit better. But still, like these are not deals that have panned out in any way in Anaheim in a season where you're tanking. You just signed veterans to long-term deals. Um, I'm not a fan of what's been going on in Anaheim this year, but it can all change with some lottery balls in a month.
I think that Klingberg is going to be the first player in NHL history to get a new agent within 3 months because
Dude, whoever told him not to sign that long, I believe he was offered a long-term deal in Dallas.
but
And I
not
know it wasn't what he wanted, but hindsight's 2020. Holy
but
shit, dude.
I'll tell you what, that guy's gone. Now this new guy needs to get fired because he didn't force a trade early in the season. You know, like how does he end up on just the Wild and for this return? Obviously for the
With
Wilds,
minutes left too, like this was like
it
beating at the buzzer. Like you would, everybody thought that coming into the season that John Klingberg would be money in the bank, if not a first rounder, at least a second rounder.
and you
And
also got to
he's
feel for the
probably
Ducks. You also got to feel for the Ducks, man. They took this guy on, and then they just I feel like that like they're just rushing just to get him out, just to get
I don't
something
know.
back.
yeah.
I don't have sympathy for them, man. Like
I don't have as much. I know what you're saying though, Bry, but yeah,
It's just
I
a
don't have
mess.
sympathy for the thing. I do have sympathy for the player just because like I could only imagine what he's going through. Like he was probably he was a big part of. Let's not forget the Dallas run to the Cup Finals in the 2020 bubble. I believe he was, if not the big minute defenseman, because Heiskanen was probably that. He was definitely two or three, and he was a really good producer as well. That's 2 seasons, I think, maybe 3 seasons removed now from that height. Holy, this guy like torched his future on fire by not signing something in Dallas, like remotely long term.
Well,
Oof, jeez.
all right, let's
we
keep.
we have to talk about the trade that didn't happen before we move here. Gibson. Should they have moved him at this particular deadline?
Is he
This is a
UFA?
guy who put up what three? No, he's not UFA, but he was in
I
rumors. He's been in
had
rumors
no
since
idea that he
summer.
had rumors.
Yeah, I had no
Yeah,
idea
man.
either.
Like I had heard him like thrown around as a name. Maybe it was just in the circles that I listened to, like just like on like Jeff Merrick's show with Elliot Friedman, like insider talk about Gibson. This is a guy who put up 50 save games 3 times in 1 month. I can't remember how many times it's been done, but it's not many times. And if you're Anaheim, is there room for Gibson when you're trying to bring in a new guy in Lucas Dostal, right? That's like your blue chip goalie prospect. I don't know.
I
I feel like he's signed at 6.4 million until 2027.
I've
It's a long deal.
I've always been a fan of Gibson, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, like I think that he's too good for that team in the sense that he can win you games. He can literally steal you games. But obviously, a team like that, they're not going for wins. I'll tell you that.
So right in 42 games, his save percentage is 902 on this team. So
That's
above
Fantastic.
900 is
that's
a
really
win.
really good.
And now, guess what his goals against averages, which is more of a
4.
team stat? It's basically 4. It's a 3.94. So this guy is
That's
giving
insane.
up almost 4 goals a game, yet has a 900 save percentage. He is getting shelled with shots, absolutely shelled, and still putting up that 900 save percentage.
If he was on the market, I'm surprised a team like Edmonton didn't go for him.
But that's a
Anybody that
cap
needs
thing,
goaltending.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I think you do look long and hard. Um,
I
he's 29.
but you know what? You
I
make it work, right? Like
I don't know if I've said this on the pod, but I still like I okay, those numbers alone are probably just enough to tell you like there's still a
Something in the tank.
salvageable goalie there 100%. Like it's not like we're talking about Jonathan Quick, who's definitely far past his prime, putting up 870 numbers. That's whatever. There is still actually a genuinely, like, if you put him right now on Boston's as Boston's number one, he's most likely, if not winning the Vesna, in probably top 10, top 5 in all goaltending stats. And I truly believe that.
there's still,
I think
yep, there's definitely still something
sorry,
there.
I think that trade. I was hearing Adam Henrique's name as well. But there's one other player as well that they were shopping. I think all of them. I don't think it was Vetrano, somebody else. Anybody who has value right now, I think those types of deals probably get done in the off season. I legitimately think after this season's done that that might be the end of John Gibson. And if he is there another season,
Rest in
Better be
peace.
it better be in front of an improved team. Yeah. Or yeah, just
100%.
rest in peace. Yeah.
All right,
Just give him something to work with.
let's keep it in California. This is gonna be a short one. How do you guys feel about what the Sharks got from Meyer? Because at the time when we recorded this their episode earlier, we didn't know what the return was. So, do you guys think they
I
got
forgot
enough?
about
Yeah.
that. I
And
forgot we
My God.
even have that.
We waited ages and then we were like, yeah, guys, we're going to stop recording. And then the deal's going to come in. No, it did not. It took another like 2.5 hours. It didn't come in until we were watching the third period of the Leafs game at like 9 o'clock. Um, I think that they definitely got quantity. Did they get quality? That remains to be seen. Zetterlund, like that's a guy who's probably a third liner, maybe slight upside for second line. Janssen, pure cap dump. You got the two prospects, Ohotiuk and Mukamadulin. Fun names to say. Are they going to be something? Remains to be seen. And then you've got the good old mystery box of picks, first rounder, second rounder that has conditions to become a first rounder as well. I just Timo Meyer, like there's not many times that a guy at that age becomes available, and I don't blame New Jersey for pouncing on it. And the Sharks, it's tough to lose a guy that's still kind of young, but man, like this is a team that's still they're still nowhere. They're just at the start of their rebuild. They don't really have their franchise cornerstone. The timeline has been pushed back big time, so it's a satisfactory return to me. Like I think I graded it at like a 7.5 out of 10. It's good. We'll see if they can make it great with those picks.
Dave, what you got?
I mean, listen, if you're going in with probably a like a blue chip trade, proposal, and you're not coming out of New Jersey with probably one of their best, like I know we were saying Holtz for the Devils. I don't know how likely that was, but man, Jersey's got some other players there that wasn't named Fabian Zetterlund. Oof, man, I agree with you, Christian. Getting that's the I believe that's like the baseball approach, getting the quantity over quality, because it's like one of them could surely do any of them become Timo Meyer? Probably not. I'll be honest with you.
The
Maybe you
best
just
chance is the first, which isn't a player yet.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So you need to hit on that player basically, right? So yeah, there's definitely some pluses and minuses. Definitely not the type of deal that foresaw coming for Timo Meyer. Like I think legitimately, like you add him into Jersey's top six, probably top
Gross.
line. Oh my God! Like they make them such a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I know Christian was pretty lenient, giving them a 7 out of 10. I'm not going to be as lenient. I'm giving them a 4.5, 5 out of 10. Like it's an okay return, but hit on one of your picks and maybe we'll talk. I'm not holding my breath for Muka Madulin or what's the other guy's name? Ohiontic? I don't know
Ohotiuk?
if
Something like that.
Yeah, they're both
Ohotiuk?
Eastern European. And they
So,
also
Yeah.
got Leafs legend Andreas Janssen, so good
Oh
for them.
yeah.
so for me, I think that the Sharks, kind of they pass, but they took an L because obviously we were hearing originally Alex Holtz, right? There's something there. Can Holtz be as
Yeah.
good as Meyer? Potentially, right? But I don't know. Like you said, what are the odds that a player becomes like from that haul becomes as good as Holtz? Probably unlikely, but that's fine. I think that we'll go to Seattle now, and obviously because there's not much there. Anything you guys want to make note of? Because for me, they just didn't like do anything. Did they even make a trade? Off the top of my head.
Today, I don't think so. No,
All right.
I actually think their most recent trade is the Jacob Magna trade. They had like UFAs that they could have maybe flipped or stuff. Like Carson Soucy's name was out there a lot.
They need him though.
Um, Honestly,
Yeah.
right? I think this is a fair chance to just take a own rental. They've got a surplus of picks, so I think they're totally justified to take the chance on an own rental. I think that's fine. Yeah.
All right. So go to the last team. Last but certainly not least, the Vegas Golden Knights. What do you guys think about their moves? Acquiring who did? Sorry, I don't have the list in front of me. Who did they
They
acquire?
got Quick, they got Barbashev.
Oh yeah, even
And they
Barbashev.
got
I think they got I
Teddy
think they got one other
Bluger.
guy.
Oh,
Ooh,
Teddy
can't
Bluger.
forget Teddy
That's a
Bluger.
good pickup. That's
Teddy
underrated.
Bluger. A very underrated pickup.
Yeah, man. Fourth line
Uh,
center Teddy Bluger. I got no problems with that.
Did
yeah.
they
So
like?
okay. So do they improve massively from what they had coming in?
No.
I'd say probably not. Like you could have done a lot better than going out to get Jonathan Quick to address your goaltending problems. But that's also to say, like maybe just maybe, you know, maybe it lights a fire under John Quick's ass, and he's like, hey, there's a very very good chance that him and his former team will meet in the playoffs. I think that they're on track to meet in the first round. I could also be wrong, but imagine a Vegas LA series and John Quick's the starter, like maybe gets into game. It all depends on Logan Thompson, right? So this is insurance right now for Logan Thompson. Right now, Aiden Hill is a starter, and I was watching a bit of their game against Jersey before we came on here. He's doing all right. He's in there. He's a guy. He's standing in, but 100% adding somebody like John Quick. I don't think you're adding him for the goaltending per se, as much as you're adding him in for maybe helping out the young guy in Logan Thompson because John Quick has been there. He's been there twice in particular. And the first time he was there, I believe he was he might have still been on his ELC if I'm not mistaken in 2012. He was very young if
But
I'm not mistaken.
the reason I like the pickup for Quick for LA is because Quick's the only goalie in our lifetime that we've seen steal a cup. Like legitimately take the cup
Yeah, he
and
stole
run.
2012
He
100%.
stole
Yeah.
he stole it
And
from so
you
many
could
different teams.
also
But the main thing
You
is
could
with
also
Quick,
make the argument he stole a second one as well, but I think that one was more, he didn't have as much to do with it, but that 2012
but
run in particular, oh my God.
but the main thing for Quick for me is that you don't know how he's gonna perform like in regular season. But when you know when it's time to show up, he will, and he's proven it so many
Yeah,
times over his career.
so that's the thing too. We saw it last year. He went up against the high flying, high powered Edmonton Oilers, and he held his own. He almost single handedly dragged the Kings
He did not
to
drug the Kings.
He
Yeah,
didn't
no.
drug the Kings. He
And
almost drugged the Oilers, but he
he got,
did. He almost dragged the Kings to a first round win over McDavid and Draisaitl,
and
and we don't see that miraculous run from them, right?
but Dave, like you said, like there's a chance that the
No,
Golden Knights
yeah, no,
play.
100%.
There's a chance that the Golden Knights play the Kings this playoffs, right? That's, like obviously right now they're 1-2 in the Pacific, but like it's so tight, doesn't like, you don't know what's gonna happen. I can already see the headlines. Golden Knight John Quick slays the King, or John Quick the King Slayer. Can already see it right on the
Oh,
news panels, right? And
if those two meet, like that's something
Must
that
match.
like the sport itself needs. You need more storylines from that. You can't just have the East dominating headlines because after those games finish at 7, then what? You're just gonna turn it off. Maybe you'll watch a
How do you keep
McDavid
me
game.
around, man? Yeah.
Yeah, like that's so intriguing to get a potential Vegas and Golden Knight because the players on the team. If those two do happen to meet, that the players know what it means to the guy that's behind them, right? On Vegas especially, and you know what it means to the guys against them, right? That's their former pseudo captain. Like he was potentially like a Roberto Luongo esque type captain on that team. He was there for so long,
yes,
so I'm
Christian.
I'm
I'd always said that he
honestly
almost
I'm
stole
hoping
some
for that.
cups. Yeah, no, I'm definitely hoping for that tour. Sign me up for the quick revenge tour. It sounds fantastic. I know we said he stole some cups. He almost stole a series. I brought this up before, but that 2017-18 series against the inaugural Vegas Golden Knights, that is the closest a goalie has come to stealing a series in which his team was swept. Okay. I always have to bring this up because that was incredible. That goalie duel between Fleury and Quick. In 4 games, he had a 947 save percentage and got swept.
Insane.
I'll always have respect for Quick. Even after the Cups, that gave him a little bit more respect in my book. So I just wanted to shout him out there.
Christian, do you have any takes on Vegas's moves?
Yeah, the Quick thing, it's not nothing crazy, but I mean, when you can get a guy for a 7th round pick and Michael Hutchinson, did you guys know Michael Hutchinson was in that deal? I just kind of looked at that now. Leaf legend Michael
I haven't
Hutchinson,
followed
not
his
really,
career,
but
man.
yeah.
He was always with the Leafs until he wasn't, until he disappeared, and then he just he went to another team before LA. I know that like almost
Oh
sorry.
yeah,
Before he
dude,
went to Vegas.
Colorado, man.
Oh yes, that's right. He got
Right?
into games with
This
Colorado
is
too.
this is such a
Playoff
weird
games.
this is such a weird like trade deadline or like like sorry draft or like off season for Vegas because like usually they're always like in on the big fish. Usually they always make a move or usually there's some drama like even last year with the Dadonov
Yeah,
stuff like. But with this year, I don't know. They're just
kind of
silent.
quiet. You've got a little bit of this stuff with Eichel. There was Cassidy calling him out, being like he hasn't been good enough. That's the closest we've got. I mean, there's Robin Lehner's stuff, but that's like farther from the actual team. Yeah, overall, kind of quiet on the Vegas front. They were in on the big fish, which is crazy. Like I don't know how they would have made Meyer work. That would have been nuts. But yeah, they end up with their biggest move being Barbashev. Barbashev's a good player. This is a guy who, once again, passed the Tampa sniff test, so that's a good sign for Vegas. He can be your 3C. He can play on the third line wing. He can even go up in the top 6 in a pinch. Every team would want a Barbashev. Can't really fault them there. Is it enough to be the class of the West? I don't think they're heads and shoulders above anyone. I think it's a neck and neck race in the West. And even just nailing it down to Pacific, it's anyone's game. Could be LA in first, could be Vegas, could be Seattle, could be Edmonton. Any of them. Um, throw them in a hat, pick it out. I wouldn't be able to tell you who I think is winning that division right now.
So there's one more thing I just wanted to bring up. They have a guy who's on a expiring contract on a $1.5 million contract, so it's movable. Named Phil Kessel. Obviously, the Golden Knights are in a playoff spot. Obviously, they'll probably make the playoffs. But do you guys think that like they should have flipped him for something or like gotten something back? Because he is expiring and he does have playoff value. He does have some value there, no? So when do you think that would be an interesting situation for them?
Why would they flip him though? If he's got playoff value, why not keep that?
That's true. That's true. But obviously, he's playing third line, right? So it's not.
Yeah, I think at
Does
this point in Kessel's career, the numbers reflect where he is in the lineup. Right? It's the
does
unfortunate truth, and he's a guy who could probably
he still
benefit from
have
rest.
does he still have the Iron Man streak?
Pretty sure. Pretty sure. I think we would have heard about it if it was broken. And honestly, at this point, it might be holding him back a bit, right? Like he's a guy
I
who
think
could
that's it.
benefit
Like,
from rest.
yeah, I think
Um,
that's probably the only thing that's keeping him from. That was probably the only thing keeping him from going to somewhere like Arizona again. I'll be honest with you.
yeah,
Maybe just having him there as like some veteran. Well, I mean, listen, it before the season began, you weren't bringing Phil Kessel in to score 30 goals again, right? He was obviously going to be, money in the bank. I think he's at 10 goals. I literally have no idea what he's been doing this season.
He has
11 goals,
11.
15 assists, 26 points.
Listen,
Ah,
for 1.5, you could do a lot worse for
yeah,
than good old Phil the Thrill. I think right now it's just doing him a service, keeping him on. Like it's just his Iron Man streak. I think at this point, and whenever he decides to hang them up, I guess is when that streak officially ends. And maybe that's what because last year we had Keith Yandel, who for no apparent reason was held out of a game where he was healthy scratched on a terrible Philadelphia team. It's like you could have just let him run out the rest of the year. and called it on his own terms, he most likely would have just called it. Like the writing was on the wall for him. The writing's on the wall for Phil. I think, in my mind, I don't know if Phil's attracting many offers in the offseason, I'll be honest with you. But you know what? If they make a good run and he's a part of the team, I think it's just a bonus for them, honestly. He seems like somebody who relishes those types of situations.
You guys got anything left to say for the Pacific Division?
Do better next year, honestly.
Thank God. I was about to say that.
Well said.
This was tough to get through because there is basically nothing. Basically nothing that happened.
Yeah.
And they were all sellers. And thank God we're done with this. We never have to do this again. Okay. Thank you for listening. Shout out to NHLShop.ca. If you want your Matthias Ekholm Oilers jersey, get at NHLShop.ca. Shout out to
Oh my
Fubo.
God.
Shout out to Razor.
What a sadistic person you would be if you're gonna get Echo with the other people on that team.
Well, you tell me who I should have used for
That's
that
so
example.
true, man.
You tell me who I should have
Timo,
used for that.
Oh,
Okay?
never mind.
Look
You
at
get
the-
your
Jonathan
Jonathan
Quick.
Quick Vegas jersey, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
That's a good
that's a real
one.
good
That's
show.
Cardinal sin when the Kings are on clearance right now on NHLShop.ca. Anyway,
Klingberg, Minnesota. No, doesn't work here.
no. Anyway, thank you for listening. This is the end of this clip by BD Sports PuckPod. If you're listening to the podcast, well, like you'll have the
Get ready
Central
for the
Division.
next division.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a wrap.